Welcome back to the Million Dollar Landscaper podcast. Now, I have to be honest here, guys. I have been sick as a dog lately. Katie and I had planned to record a bunch of podcasts last week. I actually lost my voice. I'm just getting back here the past couple days. Still a little bit raspy, but wanted to hop in here and we decided, you know what, since we can't record podcasts, let's go back in our files, look at some amazing episodes that we had in the past. And today we decided we're going to be back an episode that we had with our friend Chris Gentry over at MyServiceArea. MyServiceArea is an awesome tool that I encourage you guys to check out. This tool easily adds onto your website and helps you really pre-qualify your customers to make sure the customers are in your service area, and hence the name MyServiceArea. So Chris is actually going to chat with us today and talk about how he got started and why he created this amazing product. And he's going to share with us a little bit more information about this product. If you guys are interested, head over to myservicearea.com/MDL and use the coupon code MDL and get $50 off your sign-up fee. So, all right, guys, this is an amazing episode. Enjoy, and we'll be back soon with some new episodes. Talk to you soon.
We want to take a quick second to tell you about our friends over at Cycle CPA. I can't even express to you how important it is to have a good accountant on your side. You know you want accurate bookkeeping and financial statements every month. Instead, you're often left with limited time to focus on the accounting side of your business and no reports to show for it. At Cycle CPA, the landscaping accountants, they not only handle the bookkeeping, but also provide landscape industry benchmarking, job costing, financials by service line, advisory meetings, and much more. Cycle CPA has a team of landscaping accountants available to provide anything from bookkeeping to CFO services. Visit cyclecpa.com, and for $100 off, mention the Million Dollar Landscaper podcast.
Welcome back to the Million Dollar Landscaper podcast. Now, are you tired of wasting hours just trying to figure out if your leads are actually in your service area? Well, look no further. Today, our guest, Chris Gentry, he's the mastermind behind MyServiceArea. It's a cool tool that's going to help you streamline your business and help save you time and money. Now, Chris is the owner of Happy Cans. It's a trash can cleaning business in South Carolina. And through his experiences, he discovered that he was getting customers contacting him that weren't even in his area, service area. So he was frustrated by this. So he decided to come up and take some matters in his own hand and come up with a tool called MyServiceArea. So Chris, welcome to the show. And you mind sharing a little bit about your story and how you got started and everything in your business?
Yeah, Scott, first, thank you so much for having me on. I always get excited when I get to share what we're doing to the lawn care and landscaping world. So thank you very much for having me on. Yes. So like I said, my name's Chris Gentry. My backstory is that I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur, but I bought this business called Happy Cans, and it's a trash can cleaning business, and I bought it about almost 3 years ago. And for the first 90 days, I said, you know what? I'm not going to touch the business. I want to understand what's going on. And I realized after tracking all this information that I was driving a lot. I was driving way too far some days. I mean, some days I was driving 100 miles, and it just financially it didn't make sense. And then I also realized that after I'd been out cleaning cans, I'd have to come home and look at all these requests. And in the summertime, when it starts getting warm, those requests can be 5, 10, 15, sometimes, in those crazy times, you get 20 requests. And what I was doing is I was coming home and looking up every one of these addresses on Google Maps. Then I'd have to take the time and respond to them and say, sorry, we don't service your address. So I started looking around, figure out a way that I could filter these requests that were coming in. And, people said, hey, why don't you just use a zip code filter and do it that way? And I said, zip codes come in all different shapes and sizes. I don't service, all of a zip code. I need something that is I can get very specific on the areas I service. And I couldn't find anything out there, and so we built it, and that's how MyServiceArea came about.
That's awesome. And I love bringing on other people from like other industries, because there's so many different things like in the landscaping industry that we can pull from other industries. And like you said, you started in the trash can cleaning business and transitioned to making the software, which is awesome. I personally feel that the landscaping industry is somewhat behind in some of these technologies. We're starting to catch up a little bit, but it's awesome to bring in other people like yourself that have thought of these other resources and other tools that you can help you, pre-qualify your customers, if you will.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, now that we are starting to bring on more clients in the lawn care and landscaping world. I mean, you guys, there's a lot of similarities between the trash can cleaning business and the lawn care business. Not so much on the landscaping side, but one of the things that we're learning from you guys is all the different services that you offer. And so we've had to accommodate for that, which brings even more value to the system. And I'll share more about that later. But since you mentioned, bringing in new technology in the landscaping world, I thought it was worthy of, sharing that, how there are some similarities.
Oh no, there's definitely is. And if you really get down to it, there's a lot of similarities between a lot of different businesses. It just depends on the type of service you're doing. But business is somewhat business throughout, and this is why it's so important. Like I always encourage people like that are members of our Million Dollar Academy to look at other industries. Like look at the HVAC industry, look at trash can cleaning businesses. And just to pull ideas. If we want to be innovative and think of how to market ourselves different, how to be different than other competitors, you have to pull from others' industries. So I think this is an amazing story.
Great. Well, again, glad to be here and sharing it with you.
So today I kind of want to chat with you a little bit about pre-qualifying, because this is essentially what you're doing with your tool is we are somewhat pre-qualifying the customers. And I'd love to hear your input on why pre-qualifying, is so important and how it can actually help save time and money.
Yeah. Going back to my story that I shared when I was coming home and spending that time looking up. Well, if you're in the lawn care world and you're out, maybe you're an owner operator like I am in my business. So, you're doing a lot of the things that make your business successful. So if you're out cutting grass all day and you come home, you into those inquiries, here's more time that you have to spend to look up those addresses. But what if you could come home and see you had 5 inquiries and you already knew that those 5 inquiries were qualified because they were in a neighborhood, an area that you already serviced? That's efficiency. And that really, as time adds up, that saves you a lot of time over, a day, a week, a month, a year that you could be better spent elsewhere.
Absolutely. And in our industry, we call it the route density. So we want to keep those routes as tight as possible, like basically kind of take over a neighborhood. And I'm sure it's the same thing in your business as well. And this is one of the tools that can definitely help you do this. I know talking to other landscapers and in lawn care businesses, this is something that they kind of struggle with. But having a tool like this that you can basically just go on a map, outline the areas, and ask the customer if they're in that area or not, that's an amazing tool.
Yeah, and the side benefit of MSA or MyServiceArea is that it's a customer service tool. So when somebody comes to your website and wants to get a quote or find out any more information from you, immediately they can find out if you even service their address. So now they're not wasting time filling out a form or calling and leaving a voicemail only to find out you don't even service that address. And so that's turned out to be kind of a byproduct, if you will, of MyServiceArea that, we always keep learning that it's a time saver for the website visitor as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never thought about it at that point, but that's very true. The other thing too is we, as landscapers, especially when we're starting off, we want to take every single job. It doesn't matter how far we drive. We're just going to do it, get some money coming in and get the ball rolling. But when you start going out and trying to be everything to everybody and helping customers over here and customers way over here, and you're just doing all that drive time, it can actually hurt your business because you can't take care of the customers as best you could if you're having to travel so far because you're in a rush to finish this job and get over the next job. So it does help in your business as far as even just your reputation, because you are staying in that area. You can spend an extra minute talking to Mrs. Jones or whoever and, talking about the dog or whatever it is before you go to the next one. But if you have to drive across town, it costs you time and money. So you're
Yep.
going to rush.
Exactly. Especially with fuel prices, they're not as high as they were, but I mean, everybody experienced that added cost to their business last year. I mean, myself included. And so the more efficient that you can be with your routing and your route density, the better off that you are, to the bottom line. Speaking about this, you had I had to write it down. Evergrow Marketing, Jake and Cody,
Uh-huh.
and they hit home when they said, we use data to advertise. And the great thing about MyServiceArea is MyServiceArea collects every address and puts a pin on the map that is entered into your window, your MSA window pop-up. And so now users can go back and look at those pins on a map, green for in territory, red for out of territory. So it really helps business owners get a visual of their business. I'm not sure of another CRM or routing or scheduling tool out there that does that. And so when they talk about using data, this is just another tool that you can use. In fact, one of our lawn care guys in Virginia, I had a call with him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, this is very ironic, or the timing is good, I guess. I've got a meeting with my marketing guy tonight, and I'm using my MSA map to show them, where the inquiries were coming from and where we can focus some marketing dollars and maybe where we can pull back some marketing dollars as well, because we're not gaining traction in a certain area.
Yeah, that's so true. I never thought about it that way. So those that are just listening and can't see, so essentially, like Chris showed this to me the other day, is there's basically a Google map essentially, and it has all these pins on there, so you can see like where it's highlighted. If you have a red area, like Chris said, it's maybe you need to consider servicing in that area. Maybe you need to consider marketing in that area. So it's a great tool in that aspect.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I referenced earlier that we're learning from the lawn care world is you guys offer so many different services.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them do, and weed control, snow removal is a big one right now. Lawn maintenance and mosquito. It's just all these different services, and all these different services have different profit margins, and so some services can be a big area, some services can be a little area. And so what we have done is built out the functionality is that if you offer 5 different services, technically you could have 5 different areas. So depending on, what button they select on your website, they will be attached to, that area. So that makes it even more efficient, with fielding inquiries that come through and just not in a general bucket to look those up. They're service specific areas.
The other nice thing about your tool is when you're showing it to me is like if you look at like a Facebook ad or anything like that, when you pick like an area, you pick your city or town, it just draws a circle. With Chris's tool, you can actually get down to the street level and trace out that you don't want to do this block because it's not your type of client or whatever it is. You can basically go right around a subdivision or whatever you want, which is very, very awesome.
Yeah, we have a client here locally in Charleston. He has 8 areas, and then he has one, because we give you the functionality to have bigger areas kind of overlap, because he does softscaping and some landscaping, and there's more money in that. So that's his huge area. But he has basically 8 neighborhoods that he has mapped out. So if you're not in one of those 8 little areas, you're not getting through if you just want, lawn maintenance.
That's genius. The other thing I'd like to throw in is this just kind of helps your sales process. And we always encourage everybody to really look at your customer and look how they get in touch with you. And how actually first, even going back a step further, is how are you marketing towards them? So this tool helps you with that. And then you get into actually how the customer is contacting you, whether it's phone number, on a form on your website. And you basically are just creating a sales process of how the customer is going through your system and going through, from the point they reach out to you to the point you're closing the deal, how are you interacting and creating this process? And this is something that can definitely streamline it. And like you said, going back just to filling out the form, like we said, the customer can easily do this. But you were mentioning to me the other day of how if you have a secretary or somebody working in the office, they can actually still use this tool as well. You mind sharing about that?
Yeah. So that's something else that we learned. One of our customers, lawn care customers, has office staff, and so when somebody called in, before MSA, she would have to say, "Well, let me look you up on the map." She would have to go find the address in Google Maps, and then she would have to reference the map on the wall to say, okay, let's see if that falls into our area. So now when she gets a phone call, she opens up MSA, she goes to the map page and she says, click on, look up an address. So right there, she can type in the address and it'll say in or it'll say out. Plus it will drop a pin on the map that they can view. So let's say that it's pretty close to that line, that polygon that you've created. She could say, you know what, maybe it is worth Charles giving you a call. So let me take your information. I'll have Charles follow up with you, within the next 24 hours or, whatever their business structure is. So yeah, very, very useful from that aspect.
Yeah, that's smart. Now, is there any other thing that you can say, like recommend to a landscaper to help pre-qualify? I know this tool it can definitely implement. Is there anything else that comes to mind that we can use in our business today?
I mean, efficiency. I know that word is used a lot, but it really it comes down to efficiency. And one thing when we bring on new customers, because there is a setup process, and I'll share that in just a minute. But one of the things, part of that setup process is the map. And one of the things that we do is we recommend you spend time on that map. Just don't go out there and draw a square or a rectangle or a circle. With the functionality to get down to the street level, take some time and be mindful of the areas that you service. I mean, on my map for Happy Cans, I mean, literally, there's probably about 4 blocks in height and maybe another 8 blocks in width of a section I don't service, but I service north of that and I service south of that. That middle section, I just, it's not a good neighborhood. And so those are things that we say you need to think about. Is it worth crossing that highway? Is that neighborhood really where you want to focus your efforts on? And so that's where, people that in the lawn care world, anywhere you can find a way to cut a minute, an hour, you need to do that because that's where you can save money.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you mentioned earlier is, as a, especially if you're a small operator and, a single person or whatever, you're busy out there actually doing the work physically in the field. And then you come back and at the end of the day, you have to go through all these people that have filled out forms or contacted you and you have to get back to them. Wouldn't it be nice to grab some of that time back to be able to spend it with your family or just go out and relax, drink a beer, watch TV, whatever it is? This tool could definitely help you do that. That's why I'm excited to have you on here.
Well, that's the freedom it gave me when I first implemented, because truly in the summertime in the can cleaning world, we're getting requests every day, whether it's 2 or it's 20. They're coming excuse me, they're coming in, and it's nice to know that when I use Jobber, when I log into Jobber, those are profitable requests. And I know that spending my time to get them respond and get them scheduled is making me money. It's not wasting me time or losing me money.
Yeah. Now, was there anything else that just happened by implementing this in your business that you weren't expecting?
Excuse me. It's strange. So the little bit more, I'll dive a little bit more into the backstory of MSA. So MSA will be 3 years old this fall. And for the first year, we just gave it away to can cleaners, and collected feedback. And then last February, we started charging for it, and we started engaging lawn care businesses. And so, the big thing is that even though there's like similarities between can cleaning and lawn care is also a different world. And so we learned about the different services and the territory. We learned about, Charles having his office staff use the map functionality. We learned that the biggest kind of challenge that we have is people think that MSA is a deterrent or will hinder the process, or they will lose leads. And what we're finding that's not true. It truly is a customer service tool for the website visitor. And so the process or the flow of it doesn't affect business as people think. I mean, we've got some really large can cleaning businesses, and two of the owners are very number driven about conversion rates and everything else. And one of them was telling me, he said, Chris, I'm skeptical. I don't know about this tool. I think there's too many steps. It will be too much for a website visitor trying to purchase our product. But I'm going to try it. I'm going to give you a good shot, and I'm going to try it. But I can tell you, if my conversion rate slips below this number, and he'd been almost 5 years in business, and his conversion rate was in the 50 percentile, somewhere in there. He says, if it drops 5%, I'm turning MSA off, and you lost me as a customer. Well, here we go. 7-8 months later, he's still a customer. And after 60 days, I reached out to him, and I said, hey, checking in. Tell me your feedback. And he said, you know what? It's not as intrusive as I thought it would be. It's not affecting our business, and it's saving us a lot of time. So the thing that we hear in the can cleaning is it's a no-brainer to add this to your tech stack and your website. And speaking of that, I don't think did I mention how the implementation works? I don't think I did.
No, I was actually going to ask you about that here next. So
yeah. So MyServiceArea, or MSA, is if you have a WordPress website, if your site's built on WordPress, we have a plugin that you add to it. If you have Wix or Squarespace, or maybe it's another third party, you just add a line of code to your footer. And part of the implementation process is we either do that for you, we help facilitate any conversations and code transfers with, if you have a website manager or a company that does that, we handle that communication. And then we schedule a 1-hour Zoom call, and we go through and we test the software, make sure or verify the software, make sure that MSA can see the code on your website. And we go through and design, however many areas that you need. And that's how our pricing is based off of. If you need 2 to unlimited, we have 3 different levels. And the pricing starts out at $9 a month, and the top tier is $30 a month. For number one combo at Chick-fil-A, you can get, the number one, the entry level. Yep. You always think about what people spend for fast food and coffee and everything else, and you're like, you could spend that money and create a lot of efficiency within your business. But anyway, so we go through everything there that's covered, or that's part of MSA, from the map, the content, the workflow, because all the messaging that a website visitor sees when they activate MSA is, you can have it say whatever you would like. And so, when you attach MSA to a button like contact us, get a free quote, request service, and and the window pops up. Like on mine for Happy Cans, when somebody clicks check address and request service, it says your time matters to us. Please enter your address below to make sure we even service your address. And
like
so,
that.
if they get in, they get through. If they're not in territory, then a window pops up and can say something like, "Hey, we're a growing company. Please leave us your name and email and phone number, and we'll follow up with you in 24 hours or whatever you'd like to say." And maybe they are close, or maybe it's a bigger project than you realized, and making that phone call is worth it.
Yeah. So I just got a quick question. So basically, you're saying, there's a button on your website, the homeowner or whoever clicks the button, pops up the MSA's window. Then after that, say you use Jobber. Jobber can have inform. Could it send directly from if they are a customer, it'll send them to that Jobber form?
Yep, great question. So yes, if you have a form, what you're basically doing is you're taking that link, that form link, whether it's Jobber or Real Green or whatever system that you use, Yardbook. I guess in the lawn care world, I'm still learning about all the different systems that are in that universe. But yeah, you copy that link and you take and you place it in MSA, and that's another part of the implementation is discussing how you want or where you want MSA to be activated on your site.
Okay, nice.
Yep.
Now, can this be used in multiple different locations? Like if you have landscaping page, lawn maintenance page, you can have a button on each one. Then depending on the level, I guess they would go for one landscaper and lawn maintenance. Correct?
Yeah, lawn maintenance. This side of the business. You guys usually have more territories. On the bin cleaning side of the business, probably the majority of our current customers, fall in the 2 region. We do have a handful of 6, and then we've got a couple of unlimited customers in the bin cleaning world. But usually in the landscape, you guys are either the middle or the top tier, just because of the different services that you offer. So yeah, that's a good question.
And I know you talked about it a little bit, but overall, like how much time does it typically take for somebody to get this implemented in the business? I know you said you have an hour conversation, but overall,
literally it's signing up on the website. And we do have a setup fee that is associated with each level, and pick your level. We get notified once that's done. We do a follow-up, and then it's just scheduling, and it's usually on the customer side as far as their schedule, when we can schedule that Zoom call and get you up and running, and or if they work with a web development company, that could be knock on wood, it hasn't been challenging for us. We've had very good response times from the people that we've worked with. And then if you're using something like Wix or Squarespace, you just give me a developer's access for 24 hours. I go in there, I add the code, and then delete me off that account. And then we're ready to get things started with that. So, in real life, I guess, usually within a week, depending on people's schedules, if you really wanted to do it, if you signed up on a Monday, we could schedule time on Tuesday and you could be live Tuesday afternoon. So yeah, it just, how flexible are they with their schedule?
Yeah. But it's a fairly simple process and quick process from what it sounds like. So that's great.
It is. Yep. I guess, quote unquote, the hardest part is designing your territories, taking time to design your territories. Because once you register, you get that functionality. You get access to the map, and you can go ahead and start, designing those polygons.
Yeah. And like you said, I think that's very wise to spend some time to actually look at your service areas and consider the things that are out there, what you do want, what you don't want, and just spend some time looking at your overall business. That's probably, like you said, that's the hardest part.
Yeah. So going back to Evergrow. So What if you had, as a business owner, what if you had MSA from 2022? You had that implemented. You've got all this data on your map of inquiries that came through your website or came through a phone call or an email that you looked up in MSA. And you went to somebody like Evergrow and their team and said, and they were asking, well, where do you want to focus your marketing efforts on? And you say, glad you asked that question, because look, I've got a map from all these addresses, these inquiries last year. And let's look at that map and see where they're clusters. Or let's do a direct mail piece. Hey, guess what? MSA collects all that information. You can attach it to a Google Sheet. You can export that out and send it to whoever you use and say, these are the people I want to re-engage with.
That's amazing, especially like, most businesses continue to grow over time. And so you may start adding more crews, and now you can expand your service area a little bit so that crew can go out to that dedicated area. So that's awesome that you can do the direct mails or whatever and stay in contact with those customers. It's a great piece of advice there.
Yeah. So it's the kind of the gift that keeps on giving, right? Because it collects that information for you. This reminds me of something. I don't know if this is we always kind of joke about this, my partner and I, who's the tech side, but we've kind of created the perfect storm with MSA because you really kind of set it and forget it. I mean, you get the weekly emails. We send out a weekly email on Wednesday mornings that give you information of the last week. Your number of inquiries, your in area, out of area, or unknown. But I mean, we've got some customers that have been with us since the very beginning that have maybe logged into the system. These are can clears that have maybe logged into the system 5 times. And when I asked them about it, I was like, "Why aren't you looking at your map or looking at the information?" And their comment is, "Listen, I don't have to refund any money anymore because there's one difference in the can cleaning. You can purchase, there are a lot of can cleaners where you can buy the service online." And so it's prevented can cleaning businesses from taking the time to refund the money and that loss in the refund. And so this guy's like, I don't have to refund any money. So the minute I see I have to refund money, then I'll log in and see what's happening. But he goes, it's such a time saver, and I don't think about it. Yeah. And then you have other guys that are in it every day, and they're looking at their numbers.
Yeah, I'd love that, and I guess it just depends on what point you are in your business too, because some people just don't have time to look at the numbers. As long as their things are working, they just keep moving forward. But then, yeah, we have people that just, like you mentioned, like Evergrow, their database and have to know the numbers. So I love that it gives reports. I didn't know it gives you a monthly report on your end too.
Yeah, and that's something, talking about looking forward, because we're always improving. I mean, the multiple areas, some other little things have come from our new clients in the lawn care world. They say, "Hey, Chris, we need this." I mean, Zapier integrations, we're looking. That's on the short list. We are working with right now. We're talking to a very large lawn care, landscaping, weed control. They do irrigation, snow removal, and we did a presentation this past week, Tuesday night, and because this is kind of like quote unquote enterprise. This would be like an enterprise client just because how large they are. And one of the things was like, "Hey, Chris, we need our office staff when somebody calls in and they use the address lookup function on your map page. When they enter in that address, we need a list of services that they qualify for." So that's something that we're looking at right now, how we can implement for larger landscaping and lawn care and, multi-service businesses like that are, multi-million-dollar organizations, how we can provide even more value to them. So, that's a nice thing that's coming down. We're looking at AI, like how can MSA, let's say that you want MSA to notify you when somebody's outside the area, but they're only within a half mile outside one of your polygons. How can MSA bring value and notify you, say, whether it's on a daily or a weekly or maybe a monthly basis, that, hey, look, you received 5 inquiries over in this area. Maybe this is an area you should look at.
Yeah.
And we always keep our ears open. We've got a list from all the clients that can you guys think about this? Can you think about that? Can you add this? And we are, though, being strategic and being mindful of our time and efforts in the system and what gets approved and what doesn't. But we can't make those decisions until we start collecting information and sharing it, and people raising their hand and saying, yes, that would bring even more value to the system.
Yeah. I love that you're continuing to look forward. And I love the idea of AI, because that's something that's really shot out here in the past, I don't know, even 6 months or so, and it's really blown up. And I love that you're looking at using the AI to
Excuse me. Isn't that interesting, though? I mean, AI's been around for a long time, but I guess since Elon and GTP or TP,
GPT, yeah.
GPT, thank you.
PT.
Right. I've even played around with it. I've started messing around with it and asking it questions. And I just think that as we look forward with MSA, I think there are definite opportunities for us to do some little things that would bring more value that could be automated within the system.
Yeah, well, the automation point is huge with any business and anything you can do. And for those that aren't aware, Chris mentioned earlier Zapier. I'm not sure how you exactly say it. That's a cool tool to help you automate some things in your business. So if you're not familiar with it, go look it up. But it's kind of I tell people it's almost like a software. It goes between 2 softwares, essentially.
Yep.
It could do a lot of other things, but that's just essentially what it mainly does. And it's just another way to kind of automate your business and streamline different activities that go on. So I encourage you to check that out. Check out the Chat GPT. It's a great tool. And I heard somebody say the other day, this is the worst the AI tool will be right now. It's going to just continue to improve and evolve and get better over time. So we need to take advantage of these tools that are out there right now.
I totally agree. That's why you need to add MSA to your tech stack as well.
Well, absolutely. Well, it's like we mentioned earlier, it does so much, and it's going to save you so much time, so much money, and allow you to get back to your family and get back to doing the things that you want to do, because you're going to get the clients that you want. You're going to have a warmer lead, because if they're willing to put in their address right off the bat, that's saying that they want something right away. And then they continue on to the next step. If they get approved by MSA, then they'll go into the next step of whether it's contact form or however you have on your website. Those are just kind of weeding out those people that are not interested. So I encourage you all to get out there, go check out MSA, contact Chris, and see how it can definitely help your business.
Yeah, at the very least, I'd love to have a conversation, because I love hearing new ideas. I know that we're not a fit for everyone, but I also know that we can bring value to a lot of businesses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I was going to throw out, and I know Chris and I have talked about a little bit, but I want to see if I can get Chris into our Landscape Business Owners Facebook group, and maybe he can share some screenshots and some screen images of the actual tool itself. That way you guys can visually see it. It's kind of hard to display that on the podcast. So,
right.
So I'd love to get him in there and allow you guys to actually see the product and see how he can actually use it. And maybe he can share some screenshots or whatever from people that actually use it in the industry. So love to have you on that, Chris.
And I will definitely take you up on that offer.
Yeah. So, Chris, I greatly appreciate you being on the show. Greatly appreciate you sharing all this information and the awesome tool that you created of MSA. Again, I encourage all lawn care people, landscape people, fertilization people to get out there, reach out to Chris, and just add this other little tool that's very, very cost effective to your business that will improve your leads and then just, again, save you time and save you money. So thank you again, Chris.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Chris, now I didn't ask you this earlier before the show. I meant to ask you, but do you have time for a couple of fun questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot, I've heard some of these. So
All right.
I did.
All right.
You didn't share anything beforehand. So
No.
it's going to be interesting to hear these.
All right. So, what is something that you're doing now that you never thought you'd be doing?
Cleaning trash cans.
Okay. You might elaborate on that?
Yeah. So so the backstory of purchasing Happy Cans is I had a previous software, a texting software business, and COVID kind of wiped that out because we were in the nonprofit space and just unfortunately didn't work. But one of our early customers in that was the founder of Happy Cans, and we always stayed in contact and found out that he had sold the business to a young guy in a neighboring town. The young guy, I guess he thought it would be cool to own a business. And so within 9 months, he had it back up for sale. I found out about it, and I ended up purchasing that business after looking at the numbers because we actually have some some can cleaning clients that also have lawn care businesses.
Okay.
Nice. But yeah, so that's how I got into cleaning trash cans, and I never thought that I would be in this business. But it's a very young and wide open market right now.
It is. Just even in our area here, I've only come across, I think, one or two companies. That's about it. It's not too many around in this area.
And there's a ton of dirty trash cans out there.
I would imagine so. I mean, I don't want to get out there and clean my own, so just hire somebody. Nice. So next one is, what was the last book that you read that you would recommend to anybody?
Okay, so I'm not a big reader.
Okay.
My ADD kicks in and I cannot, but I am a huge consumer of audio. And I am actually opening up my app because I am on the last couple of chapters of Lost and Founder by Rand Fiskin. Okay. And he was the founder of Moz. Okay. I love technology. So, I've done a lot of different things in my life, from owning a little restaurant to, ice machines to photo booth company. But I've been in software, sales or some way, shape, or form for probably the last 15 or probably closer to 20 years.
Nice.
So
nice.
But I've got 2 more chapters to listen to.
Okay, nice. Right. And then last one, what do you do that you take too seriously?
Wow, that's a good question. What do I do that I take too seriously?
Yeah, I don't give these out to anybody beforehand usually, unless they really ask for it. So
yeah,
I don't give you time prepared.
But sometimes it's working in MSA, trying to grow MSA. There have probably over the last year there have been some late nights that maybe shouldn't have been late. I will say though that from previous experiences with my other tech business, that I just wanted things to move slow with MyServiceArea, and that's why we gave it away for free. We still don't do any advertising. Well, I take that back. We do some advertising now, but it's just kind of let the market tell you if there's a product fit for your service, and it is telling us that there's a product fit, and so it's probably working on MSA.
Yeah,
sometimes
I can be guilty of that myself, supporting my wife. So I hear you.
I mean, I've got a wife and family and kids, and so some of those times when it's 8:30, when I should be putting the kids in bed, that's you can't get those times back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, using it for landscapers out there, using a tool like MSA, my service area, can definitely help eliminate some of
I threw
that.
you a softball. Thank you. That was perfect. That was perfectly teed up.
But yeah, no, guys, I encourage you to get out there, check out MyServiceArea. It's an amazing little tool. I was actually recommended this by Andrew Martinez who's another podcaster in the green industry. Check out his podcast. But he threw this idea out to me, and I started looking into it. I'm like, oh, I need to get hold of Chris and find out more about it. So again, Chris, I appreciate you being on the show today. Looking forward to, get you in the Facebook group and discussing it a little bit further with other landscapers and let them visually see it. So again, thank you for being on here.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Andrew. Shout out to Andrew for the recommendation.
Chris, how can landscapers get hold of you and find out a little more about MyServiceArea?
Yeah, great. So the website is myservicearea.com. My email is Chris, and that's CHRIS at myservicearea.com. And we're on Instagram, MyServiceArea, and YouTube at MyServiceArea. And
Awesome.
so, feel free to reach out. You have any questions, you want a quick one-on-one demo, just let me know.
And Chris, you said you're going to put together a special page.
Yes. Thank you very much for reminding. Yes. So for your audience, we'll have a special offering with a little discount code for the $1 Million Landscaping audience, and so they can take advantage of that. And so hopefully some will.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for being so kind and generous to do that. So, guys, recommend get out there, check it out. We talk about pre-qualifying all the time. This is a very simple tool, very, very cost-effective tool to implement in your website, and actually not even just your website, for your secretary, whoever answers the phones too. That will just, again, save you time, save you money, and get warmer leads. And that's the whole point. We want to do everything we can to save time and efficiency. So like Chris talked earlier, so go check it out. I highly recommend it. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you very much. Hey, thank you.